Well, good morning again. I'm Kent, Garner, High Road Digital. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you guys for giving up a portion of your day to come listen to us. Here's just some hard copies of the presentation. I'll pass that around there so you can take some notes if you like to. And we'll get this thing kicked off here right away. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm going to speak with you, as you can see by the title, of Love Your Website, and three key elements, really. I call them purposes or elements of a great website, and we're going to learn a little bit about that. But before I kind of dig into the nitty-gritty of the website, what I'd like to share with you is just kind of the size to get an idea. I'm right in your way, aren't I, ma'am? Let me know if I'm standing in your way. Just to give you an idea of the size and the scope of the internet. This is kind of a neat graphic that I found here that I wanted to share with you. IDC is the source here, and according to them, the size of the digital universe is at least in 2013 was 4.4 zettabytes. You're probably thinking, what is a zettabyte? It's 1 sextrillion bytes. It's a very large number with a lot of zeros. I'm not exactly sure how many, but to give you a reference, if a tablet, just your regular iPad, was stacked together, it would reach nearly 2/3 of the way to the moon from the Earth, just to give you an idea. Now this measures the digital universe, the memory, the amount of memory that's in all types of devices, okay? They're predicting by 2020 this number to grow to 44 zettabytes. It's an ever-expanding universe, just to give you an idea of the size and the scope here. I have this link here that I wanted to show you, if I could get to the right thing here. Sorry about that. This little clicker here is new for me, so I'm still trying to figure it out here. Go ahead and just click it this way. This is an interesting site that I found. You know what? I've got to be connected. I am so sorry here about this. Let's see here. As much as you prepare and not to have a glitch, you always seem to have one. All right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, here we go. Live internet stats, or internet live stats. This just gives you an idea in real time. Just to put it in perspective, over 3 billion internet users, and this is growing. This is calculating continuously. And if you look at this, there's over 1.2 billion websites and growing as we speak. These are real numbers that are going up. Emails, over 77 billion emails, over 270, I think that's million tweets. We've kind of lost the edge of the screen there. Google searches already today, 1.4 billion and growing. 3 billion videos viewed on YouTube, over 1.3 billion active Facebook user accounts and growing. So I don't know, I thought this was pretty cool and I wanted to share it with you to give you kind of a reference. So look up that site when you get back home if you want to look at it a little further. Moving on, I want to talk a little bit about all the changes that have taken place in the internet. And you may have heard of Web 1.0, 2.0. Most of the experts agree we're somewhere between 4 and 5.0 here. And I wanted to tell you briefly what the differences are as we kind of frame this all up. But Web 1.0, this was back in the early 90s, kind of the advent of the internet and the website. You know, we're talking static websites, brochure, portfolio websites at best. Nothing really more than a page with some text on there on your far as websites were concerned. This is also the first, this is the time when shopping carts were first developed and put out on the internet as well. Then we moved into Web 2.0. We call that the writable web. This is when we begin to contribute. This is when they introduced things like social media, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Wikipedia. Finally, we were able to contribute to the web. So really a neat phase that we moved into. This is where blogging and everything else came about as well. And then we moved into Web 3.0. We call this the executable portion, and basically now web applications were smart enough to put context in your data, in your searches, for example, make sense out of your data. And a good example of this would be maybe Netflix today or Pandora. As you know, as you use those websites, they begin to understand your user preferences, and then they can serve you up movies and songs and things of that nature. So it's pretty cool. Even smart searches will do the same thing as well. Not really a phase of the internet, but certainly worth mentioning. I think we're at this phase now in the mobile. Certainly, this allows us to connect with the internet on any device, smartphone, tablet, you name it, in real time. And this is also the phase where we're beginning to see wearables. You know, you got the Apple Watch and the Google glasses, but we're going to probably see a lot more wearables here in the next few years that you can actually wear on your clothing, an article. And then finally, a lot of us, the experts, predict that maybe a few years more down the road, 2020, we're going to get into this open, intelligent, emotional web. Don't ask me what that means. I still don't know. I think it's anybody's guess at this point here. This is a graphic. I know it's not very good. I apologize for this, but on the y-axis, these are the different phases of the web that have started in 1993 across the x-axis here. This is the phase where, again, brought us search. It brought us right here in the very beginning. It brought us mail. The websites were really nothing more than a catalog at this point. As we moved into year 2000, it brought us things like e-commerce, social media, and blogging, Wikipedia. And as we moved further out in 2008, it's where it started to get a little interesting. They had smart search. Google understands your preferences as well. Smart advertising. Anybody ever been retargeted on an advertising? These banner ads that kind of follow you around. That's about when all that came out as well. And then in 2012, even more intelligent-based, location-based intelligence, things GPS, Foursquare, you may have heard of that, how it recognizes where your location is. Augmented reality, one of my favorites. It's almost a hologram effect where it takes multiple images and it makes your advertising almost float off the page. It's some pretty cool stuff for anybody that's ever seen that before. Wearable technologies we're just now getting into this phase in 2012, but by 2020, things like active contact lenses. I don't know. I mean, you've heard of Google Glass. I imagine it's kind of the display right in your lens, perhaps. I don't think anybody really knows. Artificial brain, just a lot of collective intelligence, things that are just kind of out there, just to give you an idea of where things may be heading according to trend 1 here. I know this is a lot here, but I wanted to just draw your attention to 3 things here. These 3 dates that are a little bit blown up here. Anybody ever heard of Jeff Bezos with Amazon? I think most of us have. Back in 1995, he started a bookstore in his Seattle basement. And within 30 days, he had sold books in all 50 states and 45 countries and became the self-proclaimed largest bookstore in the planet. So he's really the first pioneer, business to consumer as far as e-commerce was concerned. He created a site that for the first time consumers can search by title, they could search by author, they could search by category, and he actually patented a one-click payment technology on his website. So be careful when you're on a site or you'll be buying all kinds of books. And then we moved in. How many remember the dot bomb and the big crash? Okay, a few of us do. This is really when the internet really had the tech market had a big correction there, for those of you that don't know. A lot of these internet companies were just popping up overnight. They had no real value. As a matter of fact, I don't know if you could see that, but Amazon didn't really post its first yearly profit until 2003, just to give you an example there. But Alibaba came on the scene last year. I don't know if anybody ever heard of Alibaba. They're kind of what Amazon is to business consumer, Alabama is to business to business. They're a $27 billion a year company as far as gross revenues of their merchandise. They're expected to, they had the largest IPO in history, recently went public with their stock. They're expected by 2020 to grow to $6.7 trillion. And if this trend continues, they'll double the size of business consumer e-commerce, just to give you an idea. And the reason I bring this up, I'm probably in the room of a lot of business professionals. I think e-commerce kind of touches us in many ways, whether you have a site where you sell products and services from, or whether you just use sites that have e-commerce. So this is the reason why I wanted to bring this up today. But let's kind of get down into, to drill down a little bit into why we're here and talk about websites. What is the cost of a small business website? Well, there's several components that you need to be aware of. I mean, the first thing we think about is the development cost, paying some guy to write hard code and put in some pretty graphics. That's definitely the biggest portion of a website cost here. But you need to consider domain names. You have to buy these domains if you don't have them already. Some people pay thousands and hundreds of thousands of dollars for these things. You have to renew them and register them every year as well. As well as hosting. Somebody has to host your site, as you know, so there's an added cost, an ongoing cost there in hosting. Then of course development. Again, this is where you're paying a company like High Road Digital to actually spend time with you, assessing your needs and finding out what you need in a website. And it can be, you know, it can be very simple to very complex. The ongoing maintenance. What if you want to do changes to your site? You want to add new pictures or text, or, you know, just the sky is the limit there. So you need to decide, you know, am I going to pay kind of a monthly thing, maintenance fee, or do I want to just pay as I go? These are decisions that you'll have to make as well. Every client, every business is a little bit different. And then if you have a business that's in a highly competitive space, maybe in a service industry where you just live and die by search engines, you may have to advertise your site. You may have to spend some money on search engine marketing. So these are the 5 components of what you need to consider if you're thinking about starting a website or updating your website as well. But here's kind of the basics here. I mean, we've done sites for as little as $600, little 3-section sites. But generally speaking, a basic website, a modern site is between $1,000 and $3,000, okay? If you get into integration with CMS systems or CRMs and different systems like that, it can easily jump to nearly $10,000, just depending on the complexity and how many pages of the site. Then of course, e-commerce, excuse me, sites can cost upward well over $10,000, just again depending on the size and the scope and the project of the site as well. But this will kind of give you some ideas. All right, let's talk about the title of my presentation today. What are the 3 key things to look for in a great site, okay? And obviously it has to look great, right? Some of the experts say you've got 4 seconds to convince me that whether I want to continue in your site or not. That's all you have. So your first impressions have to be strong, okay? Life expectancy of a website is 2 years now, maybe 5 years at best, and you're thinking, wow. So I got a little test here that I want to give each of you guys. I'm going to ask you a couple questions here, and they're kind of broken into 2 different groups. One relates to your business or your organization. I know some are with nonprofit organizations, and the other questions relate to your site. But let me ask you these questions, and if you can answer these. Is your business, how fast is your business changing? Okay, or I should say, is your business changing fast? Yes or no? Do you run a lot of promotions or have a lot of special events where it constantly needs quite a bit of updating? Are you in a creative or technical industry where things are changing pretty quick, okay, where there's pretty high expectations? Do you have visitors that have high expectations? Do they expect a lot when they go onto your site? They expect to find relevant content and ease and to get around on your site. Do you have to educate a lot for your products and services on your site? You have to teach a lot of information to get your point across and your message across for your product or your service. Now some questions about your site. Does your site look narrow on the screen or look templatey, where there's little buttons or even it may be colored background? Does your design look trendy or cutting edge? Because if it does, what's trendy today is probably not going to be trendy tomorrow, so just keep that in mind. Do you rely heavily on search engine traffic for your success in your business? Okay. Is your site difficult or costly to update? Okay. In other words, is it written with a lot of hard code where you can't go in there and change even a picture or a logo if you wanted to? Okay. If you've answered yes to most of these, the life expectancy of your site is probably closer to 2 years than 5. So there's just a quick little test there. Current design features. What we're seeing today, what the sites that we're building, they're very clean. They're white, bright backgrounds, large graphical banner areas that are sliding across, that are changing across the top. No flash, none of this, that type of technology is written into these sites, okay? This is, and of course, a responsive browser. What a responsive browser is that mean no matter what device your site is viewed on, it looks great. Whether it's a smartphone, tablet, desktop, laptop, computer, it does not matter, okay? All modern sites are typically written on a WordPress or blogging platform that looks great with a responsive browser. Okay, number 2, how well does your site function? Okay, how well optimized is it for search? And I'm going to demonstrate this with a product, a service that we provide. We have what we call a Buzzboard digital audit. And what we do, we will do, the very first thing we'll do to assess a person's website is that we will look at a digital audit to determine what we call their online visibility score. And it's generally a score between 0 and 100%. And I'm going to pick on express title and insurance. And the digital audit is really a great place to assess your particular online visibility and your needs. And it's going to look at several areas. I'm not going to go into all these areas, but just so you know, it looks at how well you're listed on the top online business directories like your Yelp and YP.com and city searches of the world. It also takes a look at your social media engagement or activity. But what I want to focus on today is the performance, or what I like to refer to as the bones of your website. And this particular audit is telling us that on the content analysis that they recognize that there is a phone number in the name, which is important. There's an address, so people know where your business is located. But where you see X's, there's issues, there's problems there. It does not have a contact us section in this website. Wow, how are people supposed to contact you if they want more information, right? So kind of a big problem there. Domain redirects. This particular site has more than one URL that is facing into their site. Search engines don't like that. They will punish you on your ranking if they see this. It doesn't have a sitemap in there. That simply means that as the search engines are crawling through your site looking for new or relevant content, it's a little bit more difficult without a sitemap. So these are some just things that have to be there in order to make your site optimize. And then finally, I won't go through all of these, but I wanted to point out backlinks. There are 16 backlinks. These are other sites linked to this particular site. The more you have, the greater your search, your SEO, and your ranking and search results. The search engines assume, wow, if you have hundreds or maybe even thousands of backlinks, that's a good indication that you have a very relevant site that is heavily visited, and the search engines are going to they're going to reward you, basically, is what they're going to do. Okay? So that kind of gives you an idea of what a digital audit can look like. And these are things that we do for companies. We do a digital audit free for any company that would like to know their score. But moving on, as we talked about the structure of your site, which determines there are ways to maximize your SEO. There's other ways as well, and we call that, again, this online visibility. You heard me mention just a little bit about these business directories. There's about 1,000 of them online there. These are business directories that typically will have your listing on most of these, but they do not claim to have the accurate information on there. And this gets into a whole area of what we call reputation management. I don't know how many of you guys have heard what this is, but basically there's two sides to reputation management. Probably the most familiar side that you guys are aware of are the online reviews that you see. But the other side of the reputation management is a process of claiming and cleaning your business or your organization's listing on all these 1,000 directories that are out there. We do an awful lot of this type of work for our clients. It is one of the best ways to raise your SEO and to raise your online visibility, because if you think about it, it's like having your listing, making sure your phone number, your address, your website link. If you've recently moved or changed locations, a lot of these things could be incorrect. If you've recently had a new phone number, so there's a lot of things that your hours of operations can change. So this is a process where we go by and correct this information and make sure that it's listed correctly on all these directories. Another way is a content marketing strategy to raise your online visibility and increase your SEO. Through active social engagement or active social media and engaging in social media on multiple platforms, having a blogging strategy. These are great ways to raise your SEO as well. And if you're not doing those, I would encourage you to do that. And then finally, your site, a great site, has to have a positive customer experience. As I mentioned to you earlier, you got 4 seconds to convince folks to continue in on your site if it's relevant for them or not. And one of this is easy navigation. It's got to be simple to get around on there. But I want to show you just a couple examples of some sites that I think are nailing it, and then other sites that you just wonder why. And this is one of those sites. I'm not exactly sure what language this is in or what country this is from, but when I saw, if you wanted to torture me, lock me in a room and make me stare at this all day, okay? You can see it's got some flash in there, the way it's organized. I mean, I don't really have to say a whole lot to convince you that that's not what you're looking for. This probably goes back to the 80s, I'm not exactly sure. Another site that's not doing it so well, how many are familiar, I guess you got to be as old as me, ever remember Jefferson Airplane or Jefferson Starship, an old rock and roll band? Yeah, this is kind of what's left over from this band. This is their website called Starship. And the thing I wanted to point out is this creepy little baboon down here. And he kind of shows up on every page as you go through the website there. But again, very templatey, a dark background, not a lot of creativity, and just really, quite frankly, weird. So not a good site at all. But here's a couple great sites here that I want to point out to you. Let me try to get this back up to the top. This is Designer Jewelry Supply, and this is an example of an e-commerce site. But you'll notice, again, very clean, elegant, bright. You'll see that these banner areas are very large graphical banner areas. They begin to rotate, so you could quickly show a consumer of what types of products and services does this company have, right? So you need to make it easy for consumers, or they're simply not going to continue to visit and stay on your site. But as you, if I can get on this little bar here, as you begin to go into the site, again, great graphics, real good photography. I'm not going to go through all this, but the contact information is always at the bottom of the page. Make it easy again for consumers to go to that next level, to contact you to find out more about your products and services. I think another great site is this one. It's Johnson City Eye Clinic. Again, you see some, if I can get back to the home page, you'll see some similarities. Big banners, that are sliding, moving across the top, 4 or 5 different banners. You're going to see a little bit of, as I mouse over without clicking on what the menu items look like. But one of the cool things that I wanted to point out, they've got this section of their site just to show you the type of integration that's possible out there. It's called See the World Through My Eyes, and it allows a person to go through here and quickly determine what kind of eye issue might I have here. And as I mouse over this thing, this gives you an example of what somebody would see if they had glaucoma. Just kind of cool. This is somebody that if they had cataracts, what their vision may look like. So this is kind of some of the cool stuff that we're seeing now to really educate the consumer. I wanted to show you one more of this macular degeneration. You could just kind of see what it might look like if you had, or an astigmatism. Just some pretty cool things that we can do with technology these days. But that concludes what I wanted to share with you. High Road Digital, one of the mottos we use, we say it's okay to ask for directions, or if you have questions. We want to be able to help you guys. And one of the things I'd like to, offer you guys, anybody that's here today, a free 1-hour digital consultation and a digital audit on your organization. No strings attached. Be glad to do that to you. Send you a PDF of that after we meet, so you could share it with your IT department if you already have those people in place that can help you upgrade or improve your website or your other digital marketing services. So thank you very much for your attention.